is the superintendent of Bement Schools. Good morning, Mrs. Vogt. Welcome to fall. How are you today?
Good morning, Seth. I am well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, and thank you for making time with us. It's always good to have you on the program. Now, Mrs. Vogt, I got to ask you, I've been taking kind of an impromptu straw poll here this week. So we come out of Labor Day. For some people that like signals the start of fall, right? They've got the sweaters ready if it's not 1,000 degrees outside. They're in line for those pumpkin spice lattes. Like, when do you get into the fall swing of things, Mrs. Vogt? Is it like September, that Tuesday after Labor Day? Do you need like the trees? Like, what triggers fall for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. I actually try to wait until after September 16th to get all of my fall stuff out. And the reason for that is because my youngest daughter and my stepson were both born on September 16th. So I consider them as having summer birthdays and just try to celebrate them. And then after their birthdays, all bets are off. I have all my fall decorations out, start buying pumpkins, and jump right in. Now, I'm also a kind of person who the day after Thanksgiving, I like to put my tree up.
Right. And that's a natural thing, I feel like, of course, last year we had like almost 10 days before we started we got into December. So it felt like we were in November with that Christmas season for quite a while there. So, but no, that's that. I feel like that's pretty typical. Like we're kind of the same way, like that. It may not be Friday, but at some point that weekend of Thanksgiving, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the tree's going up and the Christmas music is out and all that good stuff. So totally with you.
And I also hinge that somewhat on a birthday. My birthday is December 29th. So I like to get my tree up as quickly as possible because then I like to have it down before my birthday.
Yeah, you don't want the holiday hangover, spilling into your. That's legit. That's totally cool. How about what's your favorite thing about fall, Mrs. Vogt?
Oh, fall is my absolute favorite time of year. I
Same.
love seeing the leaves change color. I love more like today, the cool morning, the warm afternoon. It's invigorating to me.
Same. I agree. Favorite month by far, or favorite season by far. But very good, Mrs. Vogt. Well, we could probably talk fall for a long time and all those things, but we need to talk about Bement Schools. And I think we have a fascinating topic here on the agenda for this morning. It's been a while since I've had this brought up, but I think it'll be something that maybe gets talked about a little bit more as I talk with yourself and your peers. And this came up, I want to say maybe in the spring after, shortly after the mask came off and, the legal side of things kind of played itself out and we were able to take the masks off. Kids in school could do the same and all of that. And, one thing I wondered about was how about the development, that not the physical, not the academic, but how about the social development? How would masks for two years essentially on our kids, how much would that have an impact on their social development? What are you finding, Mrs. Vogt, as you see your kids unmasked in the fall for the first time since basically 2019?
Yes. So, Seth, we are seeing that it is having an impact. Just going through some of the numbers, our current seniors were freshmen the year that school was shut down, which then led to the following year, they were only in school for part of a day. And then last year, we were in school all day, but they were masked and distanced. So it has been since their freshman year that they have experienced, quote, traditional school. So then going down, our eighth graders, they have not experienced traditional school since they were in fifth grade. So if you think about the development that happens between fifth grade and eighth grade, it's significant. And these eighth graders missed out on a couple of years of learning how to interact. And let's face it, we all remember middle school. It's a time of physical change, hormonal change, emotional change, and they were not able to practice some of those skills that we are typically able to help them with through those middle school years, which then now is having an effect as our students are going into high school as well, because when administrators were out there putting tape on the ground, spray painting marks, showing kids here's how far apart you need to stay while you're at school, they didn't get to practice, what happens when somebody walks close to you? Are they really trying to push you, or did they just bump into you? And they've not been able to practice those skills. And so now we're seeing the effects of that. We're trying to help them through, when you get to pick where you want to sit in the cafeteria, here's how you handle it, because they just didn't get to do that the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's some maybe freedom that they are experiencing for the first time as well.
Yes, and then likewise in the classroom, I think one thing that we are starting to notice is students who really struggled with the remote learning and really having to be self-motivated to get their work done. They are happy to be back in the classroom. They're happy to be here and have that teacher guidance. But then we have some other students who miss the freedom of the online learning and being able to essentially set their own schedule for when they get their work done.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
That's just not something 3 years ago we wouldn't have had somebody say, well, I really would prefer online learning. It just wasn't part of our culture.
Mm-hmm. How about social development, Mrs. Vogt? You talked about that component of, having lunch where they can sit where they want, they can sit with who they want, they can, those, like, what are maybe some more specific, micro things that you notice with that? I mean, are there, whether it be, social cues, in terms of, maybe letting someone speak when you're, you say something and let someone, I know that sounds, maybe a little like silly, but if these kids aren't seeing each other over the summer, they're not hanging out with people, those are kind of things you really learn, whether it be a student that started in, say, middle school, late middle school, and they're now in junior high. I don't know, like, do you see anything of that nature that comes to mind?
We are seeing that, and along with the middle school and high school, at the elementary level. So, our fifth graders, typically the ones who, know how elementary school works. If your elementary school was anything like mine, and it still is today, Foursquare is a huge thing to play at recess. Well, our fifth graders were in second grade the last time, quote, things were normal.
Mm-hmm.
So these kids who typically would be out there like teaching younger kids, well, they're just starting to learn that whole process of taking turns, knowing how to agree if somebody is out or if it really is not out. And so that whole problem solving piece that they have not gotten to do because they weren't here for recess.
Mm-hmm.
When we got out in 2 years ago, when we dismissed right after lunch and we weren't having recess. So all of those social skills, being able to say, hey, do you want to play with me? And that's, again, what we're seeing as we look into our middle school and high school as well. They missed out on those social interactions that naturally occur during the school day. And so there have been some concerns about the way students are treating each other, because they have not been given the chance to see the modeling that our teachers do for them, and the encouragement of, if you don't like what they say, it's all right to say, I don't like that. But you don't have to call names. They've not had those opportunities to practice positive social interactions.
Mrs. Vogt, get a grip. If someone says something you don't like, you absolutely have the right to call them a name. That is what social media has taught us. All right. So let's just, my goodness. I'm sorry. I could not resist that.
I could go off on a tangent. I made the mistake. I have a daughter who's in college, and there is a parent Facebook page. Their sole purpose has become, it wasn't when she first started there, but it has become to take screenshots of questions that parents ask and make fun of them.
Oh, no.
And I had the nerve to speak up on a post and say, who cares? Move on.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have to make fun of people? Seth, I was called a Karen. I was told to stop clutching my pearls. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, no wonder kids are acting the way they do. This is what their parents are showing them. And
it's what their parents are modeling them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
kids, and by all means, not everyone. I had some supporters out there too. I had people saying, yeah, she's right. But kids who have not had positive role models, who the people they spend their time with these last couple of years are the ones who are making fun of and talking about, well, they don't know any better.
Mm-hmm. You are not wrong, Mrs. Vogt, and I'm sure that is a situation you wish you wouldn't have gotten yourself into. So, yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Been there, done that. That is why I don't do Facebook anymore. So.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we could probably talk about that for another 20 minutes if we really wanted to. Mrs. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone. And so, Mrs. Vogt, with the back to the discussion at hand about developmental things and the challenges we're finding with kids in that realm. I'm sure you're finding you have high school teachers, you have junior high school teachers that are used to having students come to them, most of them, probably predominantly all of them, that they've got these skills, they're down, maybe they're not perfect, but they can at least, it just needs minor tweaking. You don't have to steer them, you don't have to, guide them in how to actually do this from the very top. How are your teachers handling this?
They have absolutely noticed that students aren't coming in with the same level of skills that they did pre-COVID. And so it's shifting, for us in the trenches, it's shifting what we need to teach and when we need to teach it. But unfortunately, the state has not made that shift yet. And so we're still being held to the same pre-COVID standards with students who are not ready to meet those standards. We have received the last couple of years funds to help with purchasing materials for loss or recovery loss, and to help with hiring staff to provide additional support. But that's going to stop here in the next couple of years. And I'm looking at, realistically, at least 10 years before we get through I call them our COVID kids, our kids who had those couple of years. So we're looking at 10 years to really try to get back to where we had been before COVID in the world of education.
Yeah.
But the support is going to run out before our kids are able to fully recover.
That's golly, you just tipped me off to a conversation I feel like I have to have now with some elementary school principals, because you talk about COVID kids. My oldest was in kindergarten when things shut down. And so, she's now at the elementary school here in Clinton. And I'm just kind of curious what her principal is seeing in terms of the social development of kids her age, the kids that she was sending off to the junior high school. And then that's a conversation with the junior high school principal and, the kids that he, saw during that time and then sent off to the high school. And it's just like a chain reaction of conversations you've got to have at this point. So kudos to you for giving me conversations to have, but also that's just more things on the radar coming out of this.
And so kindergarten, first and second graders are the current grade levels who have not fully experienced learning through the age of COVID.
Right.
I find that those are the classes that they've learned our routines quickly. They do what they've been asked to quickly, whereas our current third grade through seniors, well, they've had two completely different
experiences,
learning environments. Yeah.
And
so it is harder. Kids want to know what to expect. What are your expectations, so then I can follow them. I don't want any surprises.
Yeah, they want that stability. I mean, they want, you tell them up front, that first few weeks, first month of school is really kind of setting the standard and how things are going to go, and then it's smooth sailing from there. So, Mrs. Vogt, I'm curious. You mentioned, your daughter, your stepson. I know he plays baseball. I thought he played football at one point, but I could be wrong.
He did, but now he is playing soccer.
Okay, gotcha. So that leads me to a question. kids that are engaged in those like team activities, whether it's a sport, whether it's, like say a band or, it's just something where you have to work together with people. Do you find maybe those students are better adjusted at this point than maybe students that don't do those extracurricular activities?
That's an interesting question, because I do feel like last school year and even the school year before, like I remember he was playing freshman baseball. Well, no, freshman year is when we shut down, so it would have been sophomore year. He was playing baseball like after they got done with the football season in the spring.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then last year back on track with that. And then my daughter, she was a senior last year. She was a drum major. And my older daughter had been a drum major before Katie, and their two experiences were completely different because my older daughter was a senior. She graduated in 2020. So she was able to experience that fall season, quote, like normal, whereas then my younger daughter really had limited opportunities to be part of that group activity. And same like with Jack, when he was a sophomore, limited opportunities. I feel like last year was better, but we still had the masking and the distancing.
Mm-hmm.
So, to answer your question, are they better adjusted than kids who are not involved? I would say, yeah, they've had more opportunities, but those opportunities still were limited.
Interesting perspective. Mrs. Vogt, let's take a time out. That really was great conversation. So we'll break here, come back with some more. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone. More to come on the morning show.
WHOW. Illinois Ag Better. Let's check markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and wheat all trading higher. September corn up 9 1/4, 683 3/4. December corn up 9 1/4, 677 3/4. March corn up 9 1/4, 682 1/2. September beans up 3 3/4, 1470 1/2. November beans 1401 3/4, up 15 3/4. January beans up 15 1/2. 1406 3/4. December wheat up 28, 857. March wheat up 27 1/2, 871 1/4. September bean meal up 410, 431.90. September bean oil up $1.13, 68.86. In the livestock market, September feeders up $1.02, 183.35. October live cattle up 77 cents, 145.15. And October lean hogs 92.22, up a dime. In the energy market, October crude oil 85.84, up 2.30. Jim Taylor, RFD.
CEO Paul Scarin here from Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. Our trained physical therapists offer quality, compassionate care close to home. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
When it comes to fire and water restoration, ServPro of Piatt DeWitt counties is the leader in cleaning, restoration, and construction. Find out all the services they provide by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Life is uncertain. Stop in and see me, State Farm Agent Jason France, on the west side of the Clinton Square, or click our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com and see how our full lineup of State Farm insurance and financial services can help protect your family.
Local farm broadcaster Jared White covers the local agriculture news you need to know. Hear his reports by downloading the free WHOW mobile app.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks again for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone is Mrs. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools. And, Mrs. Vogt, you had a great conversation with me there in the break about just how families are still feeling the impacts of COVID, inflation, all these things, and ways that, perhaps families can step up and support kids and families in need in our community. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so most people are aware, the last couple of years, the government has allowed us to offer free meals for students during COVID. And this year, most school districts are back to charging if a family does not meet the criteria for free or reduced meals. And it's still a struggle because a lot of families are still feeling the financial effect of COVID, whether they lost a job or, their job was eliminated. So, thinking about, I oftentimes, if I'm getting my coffee, I will try to pay for the person behind me. But what I would like to encourage listeners to do, instead of paying for that coffee for the person behind you, stop by your local school, say, hey, here's $20. Is there a child who could use help paying for meals or breakfasts or lunches? Because families are struggling with that adjustment to going back to paying for school lunches after COVID. So, just whatever we can do to help. I love the idea of paying it forward, but let's be honest, I'm in that line to buy my coffee because I can afford to buy my coffee. So let's reach out to the schools and find families who could use just that little extra boost and say, we've had a donation, your child will have their next week's lunches paid for. I think that would be wonderful if our society could step up that way and help each other out.
Mrs. Vogt, we've talked for a grand total of like 40 minutes between our first two visits. I can just tell this is going to be a swimming relationship. It's just going to be fabulous. So can't wait to talk more down the road. But I do have to let you go, unfortunately. How do folks learn more about all things Bement schools?
They can go to our school district website. It is Bement.
Say that again, Mrs.
Right.
Vogt. You cut out on me there.
Yep. Our district website is, they can find that. Sorry about that. My phone is wanting to fall off of my shoulder here. If they go to bement.k12.il.us, that will take them to our website.
Sure.
I tried to...
Mrs. Vogt, I don't mean to do this to you. I hate to cut you off. I apologize. I got to get to the network. That is Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools. Network News is now.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W222 BG Clinton, 106.5